you very much for
Thank you very
this
much. I appreciate it.
unprepared talks. We
No
didn't
worries.
plan to
Thank
do
you.
it, but we just thought we should. And we really appreciate the efforts you're making for improving the situation, vis-a-vis the women in Pakistan. As we all often talk about it here in the United States, that there is a lot of need and a lot of room for work in this sector. But instead of sort of asking you what you have done so far and what laws you have made and what laws you're going to make, let's just broaden the discussion a little and start with the society as it exists today. How much space does it give to women to operate in Pakistan?
Pakistan's problem has always been the patriarchal mindset that we have taken from generation to generation without really amending it. There have been changes and improvement, but in a very selective segment of the society, and they never translate into the real grassroots level. Because no government has actually tried to reach the grassroots level. There have been attempts, but those attempts have been mostly for applauding purposes and to get just a bill passed. So the real the challenge that is to get this ingrained in the mindset of Pakistani people that women are equal part of society, and you cannot expect any development or change in Pakistan until unless you make them real partners. They're not just.
So what is your real objective? What sort of society do you want to create?
The society in which women can stand right next to the man without feeling any fear, without looking for permission, without looking for his authority, and can contribute as they see fit in the betterment of Pakistan. Because they're 49% of your population, so you cannot really expect any change to happen until unless they sit and they stand right next to you with the same powers and the same authority that you have.
Wajid?
Sir, I would like to go into the background of this bill and then your efforts, of course. How did you conceive this? My again question is, why did it take so long? I know that you said that you introduced it in 2014, and then by 2016 it's already implemented, it hasn't passed. Yet, 2014. What went wrong? Why the society is deteriorating in that? Did you go to every district in Punjab? How did you do your research work?
The issue was just like as I was saying, that the issue was rapidly evolving into an uncontrollable situation in which even educated class was resorting to violence. Even foreign educated people, I have done the research, and there's foreign educated people which you so-called call the posh society of Pakistan, the high society of Pakistan. There have been cases of extreme violence, and that was because it was so much acceptable as a norm that we were becoming numb to accept that as a normal way of life. That if your wife is disobeying you on something, you can just slap her, or you can kick her out at 12 a.m. with your children, and after 1 week you'll just go simply say sorry and bring her back, and she had no choice because she is dependent on you. So we needed to come up with a strategy, and the Chief Minister was very much concerned because he himself sometimes had to personally go just to get a simple FIR registered. So the situation was getting out of hand. So we needed to come up with a strategy in which we counter not only the criminal element of abuse, but also the social elements in which she's being kicked out, her wages are being garnished by the father or the husband, and her children are being neglected, and her jewelry that she brought from her own house is being sold without her permission. The car that her father gave her was sold for their own purposes.
But you see, what you're saying is like, okay, you want her to take a stand.
Yes.
But how can a woman take this stand without a social structure to support her? Yes. And how are you going to create that social structure? That is not something for the government to do. You cannot legislate and say from tomorrow women are equal. Yes, you can do that. Probably there are laws that say that women are equal.
Right.
But how to implement it? How to do it without the social support that she needs?
Just like this, like we're having a conversation, but there is a law in place. So when you involve people, when you create a deterrence, the aim and objective is not to fill jails. The aim and objective is exactly what you mentioned, to create the social ecosystem, to create the social equality and harmony in which she feels actually
How would you
empowered.
do that?
By creating this deterrent. Because we cannot expect people to change their mindset. It's a decade's work to change someone's mindset. We have started small. We are going to create the deterrent. So if somebody does something wrong, they're actually held accountable for that. So that will send the message to the next 100 people.
Basically, you're trying to tell the women that they are not helpless.
They're not
that
helpless.
There is somebody looking after them, that the
Absolutely.
government and the law is on their side.
Plus, we are changing the curriculum. We have added chapter on gender-based violence on 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grades book. So our children, when they grow up, they read that, Islam doesn't allow violence, our society doesn't allow violence, so we should not resort to violence. So slowly but steadily with these deterrent, we're expecting and hoping for the best, fingers crossed, that in the next decade we will see a significant change in Punjab.
So I was telling a colleague about this. I covered an incident in 2003, 2004, at the outskirts of Kasur somewhere. This guy sold his daughters to pay his gambling debt. Now the mother didn't know, or like she was not educated and she didn't know where to go and how to go about it. When I talked to the local police chief, and they said, "Oh, इस किस्म के खानदान तो यही होते हैं, यही करते हैं ये वो." So it was a very complex and very complicated case, even for the police officer as well.
Correct.
So the police officer has that mentality. People don't know who to approach, और वो कितनी बात सुनी जाएगी. So these are two key issues that needs to be addressed. How do you
See, when we cannot change the system overnight, but we can create an example. If I say that, with this law, everything will change in Punjab in overnight or fortnight, and things will be hunky-dory, obviously it's not going to happen. But once there's a model in place in which there's a center in which people are equipped and trained psychologically how to deal with it, just like you said, the police officer's answer was that this happens. So in which the police officer is not going to say that. He's going to say that this shouldn't happen, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it and make sure that it doesn't get repeated. Then there's an example that gets set. So people then start looking up to it. When we were drafting this law, nobody believed that this law will even see the light of the day. Even me. There were times when we were totally hopeless that, this law will never get passed because of the resistance we're facing. But today, here we are. It's been like 3 to 4 months into the law being, enacted. And we are going full throttle. The center is coming up at the end of the summer. The budget has allocated funds for the next 3 centers. So we are making progress. And just like you are asking me these questions, I'm sure you have done your research, because when you read about the law, you had all these questions. So this is how you create the change. Because even when you're going on a highway, you press the brake, but that impact goes up to the miles in the highway. So just like this, even one rightful conviction, the impact of that will go to all the way to the spinal cord of the society.
So, there is an institution which does not really, which is outside your jurisdiction, the Islamic Ideology Council.
Yes.
It is a federal institution. But what it does counters what you are trying to do. So when the council says that you can beat your wife, or that you can marry a 6-year-old child, that does contribute to the existing views about women.
Correct.
So how do you cope with that?
You cope with that by creating an example, just like when Council of Islamic Ideology 2 weeks ago presented their own version of Women Protection Bill. Everybody reported it, but what was noticeable that the way society reacted to it and stood against it. There were Twitter trends, there were like Facebook posts, there were people out on the street.
This is a very small proportion of the society.
No, but
These are the educated few.
They were educated few, but they were regular people as well, which came on the streets of Lahore to protest that. Obviously they were not in large number.
So
they're not.
That's the thing.
Those people protested against the orange train as well, but it's still going on.
They have been protesting on these issues since
but now
I was a teenager. Now, they used to be, let's say, 50 or 60 people in those days. Correct. Now there are 120 because the population.
But now
is
they have a
increased.
platform. See, before, if Council of Islamic Ideology or anyone came up with these kind of suggestions, people had nothing to fall back on. But now, even if they're saying all of this, and even when people have this system in place, this Violence Against Women Centers and the Punjab Protection of Women Against Violence Act, this gave them more emboldenment. This gave them more empowerment to stand for their right, because they knew what the choices are. Either we go for that route, or either we go for this route.
That may be true for the educated few, but for the ordinary masses, the council or religious scholars have one huge advantage. The people believe that they speak for the religion. The religion is on their side, that they know what the Quran says or what the Hadith say. So how would you deal with that?
At the end of the day, under Bear's Sun, when you have a problem and there is a mechanism in place, you will never go to the Council for Islamic Ideology. When your daughter is molested or harassed, or your wife is being, cyber stalked, and your mother is being bullied on the street, you will never go to Council of Islamic Ideology. You will come to the center, and that will help you see that which path is right, and is the council the right way to follow, the Constitution, or are these laws are the things that protect the Islamic tradition as well as empowers our women to be safe.
You were trying to deal with this by providing viable, practical
solutions plus examples, and plus the platform.
But don't you need to back it up with religious sanctions?
We have religious sanctions. We have around 15 ulamas, including 2 from Council of Islamic Ideology, who stood on the floor of Council of Islamic Ideology and supported this bill 100%. So there are elements there. Before there was nothing to talk about when Council of Islamic Ideology or any other organization had their say in it. But now there is a counter argument, which is a very strong counter argument. So this is, on the first step that we have taken. And it's absolutely the right of Council of Islamic Ideology, a democratic right, to say what they want to say.
Do we really need this council?
That is one. The follow-up is that they still get a lot of access in the public. You're right that it's not going to be Anki Dori tomorrow, but that impact that they make is significant. It's just the armed person, man on the street listens to them with that religious.
The Maulvi Sahib ne kiya.
But let me tell you a positive side to it. After the bill passed, and once the Islamic Ideology Council and all these religious parties saw that people are rallying behind this bill, regardless of their political affiliation, you would not believe this, but this honor climb bill that is in National Assembly, the 2 suggestions that came from JUIF and Council of Islamic Ideology, I wholeheartedly endorse them, because they said that in this honor killing bill, it shouldn't just be limited to women, but it should include children and transgenders into it. So that was but nobody paid attention to that statement because it obviously was not spicy enough. But that was a big thing coming from Council of Islamic Ideology, that they're considering transgenders to be that they should be protected, and children. So it has created that debate. So instead of provoking them, instead of opposing them, we give them their platform, that they have a right to say what they want to say, but we have a right to act on it as per the legislative power that the people of Pakistan have given to us.
Was there any resistance within the parliament, or?
I wouldn't call it resistance. I would call it seeking answers to the misconceptions that were being spread, and it was their absolute right to ask for those clarifications, that's why we spent 9 months deliberating on assembly floor about this legislation, because we wanted to make sure that Jamaat-e-Islami, PTI, People's Party, PMLN, everybody gets a stake, everybody gets a seat on the table, and they come with their own suggestions. So at the end of the day, when we pass this...
you do have elements within this parliament who act very abnormally on these issues, like the way Senator Hamdullah behaved on television the other day.
Of course.
What would you say about that incident, the way he insulted Marvi Salman?
I would say that's absolutely, a wrong way to treat a woman. Nobody has a right to tell anyone not to speak their mind, just like Senator Hamdullah has every right to speak his opinion about anything. Same right as Marvi Salman has. So that is the time to show the real temperament when you are being opposed. And he should have shown more class, and he should have shown more honor.
And he said he will not let her talk. That's how the argument is started.
It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
He said, no, you cannot support him. No, you cannot. And she tried to explain. She said, look, I'm not supporting him. I'm just trying to make a point. And he said, no, you cannot make that point.
Correct.
So when you're dealing with those kind of people, how do you do?
See, we have been dealing with it. I mean, we have been. The moment the bill passed and all this opposition came, we didn't went into hiding. we went with the open invitation to all political parties to come up, sit in front of us, and show us which clause is un-Islamic. And 24th February 2016 till today, 13th of June 2016, not one single clause has been identified, and not one single clause has been amended. And that is the proof of the resolve and the testament that this bill is not un-Islamic. This bill is according to the Islamic laws, and this bill is according to the Constitution of Pakistan.
And where does most of the resistance come from to efforts to change the women's status in the society? Where does most of the resistance come from?
Resistance comes from mostly people who are unaware, and they have become used to of the fact, they have become numb to your women being beaten or abused. So I would say that once you educate them, once you tell them, I have seen, once I started with this draft, I had 100 people in front of me who were against this. But now all of those people are more ferociously supporting this bill than I am. So once you show them, once you talk to them, you engage them, there's always a way to resolve everything like democracy.
As an author of the bill, you must have done your research. So did you point out certain incidents within the province, around the country, like this Delhi rape case?
Yeah.
Shot up.
Yeah.
So was that, or were there any other incidents that you had in front of you and wanted to?
We were basically relying on the data. We didn't want it to target a specific individual, because for us, all women, should be given the same, safety. So I didn't want to use one example that, okay, this has happened, so now I'm going to give you protection as well. So it's like a supplement that, okay, I'm going to wait for a rape to happen, and then when there's a hue and cry.
No, of course not, but having that as an example that these things could happen, and
data.
This is how the society over there reacted, this
Data.
is how the media
Data.
reacted.
Our data was strong enough. And alhamdulillah, I can say that in this bill, when we were drafting this bill, the only thing in front of us was data. It was not a political game. It was not something that we were trying to do for the West or the East or India or anyone else. It was something that we have a data in front of us. That's where Special Monitoring Unit, the law and order wing that I had, that's how we're different from other departments, because we come up with reforms based on facts, rather than just a hunch that, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and say, let's do this. We collect data, we assess data, and then we come up with solutions to deal with that data.
And I asked you earlier as well, Benazir Bhutto also set up women police stations. That didn't go nowhere. What is the surety of these centers that they're going to last after the government is gone?
Because these centers have the teeth that the women police centers didn't. When women's police centers
they can bite.
They can bite. And that's why there's all this hue and cry. Because if there was no hue and cry, then I would know that this bill has, it's not going to have any impact. So these centers have teeth, because they are manned by a SP level female officer, which is supervised by a DIG gender-based, which is a female. So this is a whole chain of command which is manned by educated women who will never, leave no stone unturned.
And you sure that men police officers are going to obey them?
Of course, because
I've seen
rank.
that. I started my career as a crime reporter,
Yes.
and that was when those was Zia's time, and Zia also did use some police officers, not at the SP level, but DSPs, and I saw an ASI defying a
Correct.
DSP traffic.
I'm
She
sure.
was a woman saying that, but you're not even a real officer, what can you do to me?
Exactly. But things have changed. For the better. There has been a shift, and we have a lot of SPs who are working in Lahore and Rawalpindi and Multan.
And they are listened to, they're obeyed.
Absolutely. They're
Their
actually.
orders are implemented.
There's one SP who's leading the counterterrorism department in Multan.
Well, that's
Yes,
very good.
Yes.
And recently 4 women were burned alive.
Yes.
And there are laws, of course, that's murder,
course.
and there are laws that they are to prevent that. But still, these things keep happening.
Of course.
So how do you
They
stop
will
it?
keep on happening. See, even in a country like United States, we have all these laws. But domestic violence is
But the state intervenes.
State intervenes, exactly.
Are you making sure that the state
will intervene.
That's exactly where I was coming at, that these incidents, I'm never going to say that these incidents are going to stop. Wherever there is a human, there is going to be, I'm sure if you have read the book Anandi with Ulama Abbas, you can take prostitutes out of the city, but then there's going to be a whole city around
New
them.
city built around it.
Exactly. So these issues will never end. But as you said, the deterrence has to be created. So
But
once they
that
happen,
Anandi was based in a non-Muslim city, Bombay.
Yeah.
It does not happen in a Muslim country, does it?
no, it does actually, because there was this red light area in Lahore, but then
I was
they
just
moved,
joking.
and then everything kind of went around that. So
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
I really appreciate your
that.
time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, appreciate it.